The hallway stretched ahead like an endless tunnel, painted in faded cream and lined with rows of dented blue lockers that reflected the harsh fluorescent lights. The smell of floor polish mixed with the faint scent of pencil shavings and someone's overpowering body spray. Somewhere far behind her, a burst of laughter echoed, the sharp, mocking kind that made your skin prickle. Mia Evans kept her eyes down as she walked, the soles of her sneakers squeaking faintly against the linoleum. Her hand rested over the cool silver pendant against her chest, a heart-shaped locket, small enough to hide in her palm. She could feel the faint etchings on its surface, worn smooth in some spots from years of her mother's fingers rubbing it absent-mindedly. Her mother had given it to her on her 15th birthday. That morning had been soft and quiet, sunlight pouring through the kitchen window as her mom, pale and thinner than she used to be, clasped the chain around Mia's neck. Her fingers trembled slightly, but her smile had been steady. "So you'll never forget," she whispered, "that I'm with you, even when I'm not." 3 months later, cancer had taken her. Since then, Mia had worn the necklace every day. It wasn't about the silver, it wasn't worth much, it was about the memory. It was the last physical piece of her mom she could hold on to. And Mia had made a silent promise, she'd never take it off. She tightened her grip on her backpack strap, hoping to make it to class without incident. But life in Lincoln High's hallways didn't work like that. Trouble always had a way of finding her, especially when Brent Morgan was around. "Hey, Karate Kid." The voice rang out, mocking, dripping with amusement. Mia's shoulders stiffened. She looked up. Brent leaned against a locker like he owned the place, tall and broad-shouldered, with perfectly messy hair and a smirk that made her stomach knot. 5 of his friends hovered nearby, their expressions ranging from eager to cruel. They were the kind of boys who treated the school like their personal hunting ground. She didn't answer. She didn't even slow her pace. "Oh, come on," Brent said, stepping away from the locker to block her path. "Show us one of your famous black belt moves. You've been doing martial arts since what, preschool? Let's see what all those karate classes got you." The others chuckled. Mia sidestepped, but he mirrored her. Then his eyes landed on the necklace. "What's this?" he said, reaching out without warning. His fingers hooked the delicate chain, tugging it away from her neck until it went taut. Mia froze. "Don't." He dangled the pendant in front of her face. "Looks like something you win at a carnival. Give it back." Her voice was low but sharp. He grinned. "What's the big deal? It's just junk. It was my mom's." Her eyes locked on his. "She's gone. Give it back." The hallway around them seemed to go quieter, students slowing to watch. For just a second, Brent's grin faltered. But then his lips curled back up. "Dead mom? Yikes." He feigned sympathy. "Guess she didn't have time to teach you how to stand up for yourself." And then he yanked, hard. The chain snapped. The pendant tumbled to the floor with a metallic clink. Before she could bend down, one of his friends stepped forward and stomped on it. The soft crunch of silver bending under his sneaker might as well have been the sound of something inside her breaking. Her ears filled with the rush of her own heartbeat. Brent laughed. The others joined in. "Oops," he said, holding up the broken chain. "Guess it's not worth much now." Mia saw her mother's smile in her mind. The sunlight in their kitchen. The trembling hands fastening that necklace around her neck. And something inside her snapped. She didn't hear the crowd's gasp. She didn't hear Brent's next insult. All she felt was the heat rising in her chest, the way her muscles tightened, not with panic, but with focus. Years of training in the dojo had built habits her body remembered even when her mind was swimming. Her stance shifted. Her weight settled. Before Brent even realized what was happening, she moved. Her right leg snapped up in a perfect side kick, the ball of her foot slamming into Brent's stomach. The air rushed out of him in a wheeze as he stumbled backward, hitting the lockers with a metallic clang. One of the boys lunged at her from the left. She sidestepped smoothly, catching his wrist and twisting it into a joint lock. He yelped, dropping to one knee. Another came from behind. She ducked low, swept her leg out, and sent him crashing to the floor. The hallway was chaos, shouts, the sound of sneakers scuffing, the thud of bodies hitting the floor. Students were pulling out their phones, filming, their voices rising in a mix of shock and excitement. Brent tried to recover, charging at her with his shoulder down. She pivoted, grabbed his arm, and used his own momentum to flip him over her hip. He hit the ground hard, the air leaving him again in a strangled gasp. Less than a minute later, 3 of them were groaning on the floor. 2 others had vanished into the crowd. Brent sat against the lockers, clutching his ribs, staring at her like she had just shattered the laws of physics. The crowd parted as a sharp, measured clicking echoed down the hall. Ms. Porter, the principal, appeared, tall, composed, her eyes sweeping the scene in one cold motion. Office. Now. Before we go further, if you've ever had to find strength in the middle of loss, or if you've ever stood your ground when the world tried to push you over, you'll understand Mia's story. These are the moments that define us. I share stories like this every week on SoulTouch Stories, emotional, real, and unforgettable. If you want more moments that truly stay with you, subscribe right now so you never miss one. The principal's office smelled faintly of coffee and old books. Brent and 2 of his friends sat on one side, looking sullen, each nursing an injury. Mia sat on the other, the broken pendant in her hand. "This isn't like you, Mia," Ms. Porter said finally. "You've never been in trouble before." "They destroyed my mom's necklace," Mia said quietly, her voice trembling but steady. "It's all I have left of her." Ms. Porter's gaze softened. "That doesn't make violence okay." "But I understand." She turned to Brent and his friends. "You 3 are suspended for a week. And you will pay for the repair of that necklace." The boys muttered under their breath, but didn't argue. That night, Mia sat on her bed in the dim light of her bedside lamp. She held the pendant in her palm, running her thumb over the bent silver. Her tears fell silently, dark spots blooming on the pages of the photo album she had opened, pictures of her and her mom laughing at the beach, baking cookies, dancing in the kitchen. She wondered if her mom would be proud of her for standing up, or disappointed that she had let anger take over. The next afternoon, she pushed open the door to Mr. Lawrence's jewelry shop. The little bell above the door jingled. Mr. Lawrence, an elderly man with kind eyes, looked up from behind the counter. "Mia Evans," he said, smiling. "Haven't seen you in a while." She placed the pendant gently on the counter. "Can you fix it?" He picked it up, turning it in the light. "This is your mother's, isn't it?" Mia nodded. "They broke it." Mr. Lawrence's jaw tightened. But then he smiled softly. "It's not ruined. It just needs a little care. Like most things in life." As he worked, Mia watched his steady hands. She thought about what had happened in the hallway. She had fought because she couldn't bear to lose the last piece of her mom. But she realized now, her real strength wasn't just in her black belt. It was in holding on to who she was, even when the world tried to take something from her. When the necklace was repaired, she clasped it back around her neck. It felt heavier now, not because of the damage, but because of the meaning it carried. Weeks later, one of Brent's friends, the boy whose wrist she had twisted, found her by her locker. "I'm sorry," he said awkwardly. "We went too far. I didn't know about your mom." Mia didn't say, "It's okay." It wasn't. But she nodded, because sometimes letting go is harder, and braver, than holding on to the anger. If this story has touched you, if you've felt that mix of heartbreak and strength, I'd love for you to like, comment, and subscribe to SoulTouch Stories. Your support keeps these stories alive for the people who need them most. Months later, Mia stood barefoot